Hi, so I decided that I needed to make this video just to try and progress in my mental health journey. I've kind of written stuff down, so I'm gonna try and stick to what I've written. So if you're wondering why my eyes are like reading, that's why. I've always been a fairly anxious person. My first major panic attack was when I was third year, I think. It was when I was around 14 or 15. I just dislocated my knee. I had to take the gas and air pain relief, and I had taken so much of it at a stage that I felt like what was happening to me was a dream. As the gas and air started to wear off, I started to realize what was happening was actually real, and it scared the shit out of me, and I had a massive panic attack. It's scary seeing your knee out of place and all that sort of stuff, so it just triggered a big panic attack. It's actually a very common cause of my panic attacks is when I think I'm dreaming, or I kind of like zone out, and then I realize what's happened to me is real. But my anxiety has always been at a level during those years where I could control it on my own. I didn't feel like it was impacting my life majorly. Now, fast forward to 2016 when I was 18 and I finally came out to my family, which had been a big source of anxiety for me. I was constantly trying to hide and avoid certain topics of conversation. And now that everyone was out in the open, I felt everything was going to change. I decided to dye my hair blonde now that I had reached a turning point in my life, new hair, new me, and all that jazz. That year, I finished secondary school, so myself and 7 of my friends decided to jet off on a final year holiday to the glamorous Magaluf. Now, this holiday actually caused a massive decline in my mental health, and I will explain why. One night, we all decided to go to an event known as the Pirate Show, basically a big raunchy kind of gymnastics show that you would drink loads of alcohol at, kind of like a poor man's Cirque du Soleil. Our tickets came with a free jug of cocktail, which you can see from the photo, and that was one of many jugs, I have to admit. One of the performers was particularly attractive. He did a not very PG performance to the song Pony. Put it in here. You probably all heard it. After the show, my friend and I saw him walking into a gay club very close to our hotel. And us being off our faces drunk, we ran after him and we went up and got a photo with him. I'll insert that here. Whilst in the club, we had many more drinks, as you can see from what I'm holding in that photo. Whilst there, I'd noticed that a guy from a gay dating app called Grindr was also in the club. He was from Geneva in Switzerland, and coincidentally, he was staying in the room directly opposite us in our hotel, which we had figured out after just a brief conversation on the gay dating app. As I had mentioned previously, I had recently come out of the closet to everyone important to me, so I could now kind of explore my sexual orientation without having to live in fear of my secret getting out. The Swiss boy and I got to talking, and I had been told this club had a dark room. I had never been to a gay club before, but I was aware these sort of places were common in establishments for gay people. We ended up going into this room anyway, and things got a bit steamy between us. Most of it was consensual. However, I specifically said no to penetrative sex. This boy did not take no for an answer. If anyone has watched 13 Reasons Why, I can vouch that their depiction of Hannah Baker's rape is shockingly accurate. I can attest to this as it's nearly exactly how it happened to me. I have never told my family what happened to me on that holiday until now. I am truly sorry that I've kept this secret from you for so long. It is not something I was proud to admit, and I was ashamed of myself. I didn't want to be seen as a disappointment, and I never wanted anyone to look at me differently because of something I ultimately didn't have control over. I'm sure it is heartbreaking and shocking news to hear, and I apologise that this is the way you've had to find out. I find it hard admitting it to myself, that I have been a victim of sexual assault, but the thought of having to admit it to the people I care about most in the world is terrifying. But I ask you to please not fret and listen to the rest of my story, as it does have a happy ending. After the encounter, I stumbled out of the club, not knowing where any of my friends were. Luckily, I happened to find them fairly close by, and I was shell-shocked. I turned to my friend and I burst out crying, trying to explain what had just happened. The next day, I felt disgusting and violated. I was panicking and went straight to a doctor beside our hotel and explained what happened and that I was worried about sexually transmitted infections. He prescribed me an antibiotic to treat chlamydia, which I took and threw up later because the dosage was so strong. I had to purchase it again, and this time I was able to stomach it. I took a photo of the box so that when I got home I could visit a proper gum clinic and would be able to tell my doctor what I had taken, and that's the photo there. To add salt to the already festering mental wound, our friend group had a huge argument and ended up falling out at the very end of the holiday. Overall, it was just not a great time. I arrived home to Ireland and went straight to a gum clinic to get tested. I got unfortunate news that I had contracted gonorrhea, which honestly scared me shitless. I had to take another round of extremely strong antibiotics to clear that infection. Later, I had my brother's wedding on the 2nd of September, which spilled over into my 19th birthday, which was on the 3rd, but I couldn't drink any alcohol because of the antibiotics. It was extremely hard trying to explain to everyone why I couldn't drink. I wasn't going to explain, as I'd have to reveal what had happened the previous month. Very soon after this, I moved to Liverpool to study dentistry at university, a course I wasn't particularly passionate about. I felt almost expected to do this course as I had been successful academically, especially in science and maths. I felt there was almost an unwritten rule that because I was succeeding and getting top grades, I had to pursue a career in medicine or dentistry or something similar, and other people in those circumstances might have felt the same. Whilst in Liverpool, I developed thrush in my mouth as a result of taking 2 rounds of extremely high dose antibiotics. Antibiotics had basically killed all the good and bad bacteria in my body, so my mouth became overrun with fungus. Later in the year, I'd been out partying for freshers with my new Liverpool friends who I adore and miss dearly. I caught glandular fever, better known as the kissing disease, as you could probably guess how I got it. Another illness to add to the already lengthening list. I slowly recovered from that and December quickly came around. Before heading home for Christmas break, I was hating life. I hated my course, and just to top it all off, I thought I had contracted the norovirus. I was vomiting and having the worst diarrhea of my life. I flew home and the illness wouldn't go away. I went to my GP multiple times and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, even after taking blood samples. They eventually discovered I had contracted a pretty rare parasitic infection. Rare in the sense that it's usually people who have been travelling that suffer from this parasite. It's known as Gardiitis. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but it's commonly referred to as Delhi belly, so people were baffled that I had contracted it. I can only put it down to the fact that my accommodation in Liverpool was meant to be for international students, but they had decided to put 5 freshers in amongst them. It was that serious of an infection I had to be contacted by the public health office as they didn't want to have an outbreak. I'll put a wee photo of it here just because it's cute wee shit. Christmas 2016 was probably one of the darkest times of my life. That's when I had my first ever suicidal thought. I just want to caveat this whole thing by saying I never was actually suicidal. I never wanted to actually do the act, but the thoughts came into my head occasionally, just to reassure people. Everything was accumulating at once and it was overwhelming. I was doing a course I hated, I was seriously ill, away from home, and I was struggling with my romantic life. After Magaluf, I had obtained some intimacy issues. In January 2017, I went back to Liverpool after another course of antibiotics for Gardiitis. I thought with a new year that maybe my luck would start to change. I had gone to A&E over Christmas and I had actually weighed just over 8 stone, which was extremely underweight. I would be a naturally slim person anyway, but looking back on photos now, I see how gaunt and unwell I looked. I was a walking sack of bones, basically. I made one of the wisest decisions of my life and dropped out of dental school. A close friend of mine, Rachel, actually told me that she had the courage to drop out of medicine as she was in a similar position to me. She too felt pushed into a career path that was suited for her academically, but wasn't her passion in life. I got the ferry back home and applied to do biological sciences at Queen's in Belfast. I was so scared of catching some other rare disease, so I didn't want to stray far from home. I was now at this stage on my unplanned gap year between Liverpool and Belfast, and I thought it would be plain sailing from here. Boy, was I wrong. All the stress of 2016, as well as the stress of dropping out, meant I started to develop anxiety-induced chronic tension headaches. The headaches really threw me off and was bringing my mental state even further down from its already low point. I went to the doctor and they eventually prescribed me an anti-anxiety medication called amitriptyline, which helped massively. It reduced the severity of my headaches and I felt a lot happier and less anxious. During my gap year, I had gained a false sense of security, most likely due to the effects of my medication. I had never really addressed the root of my problems and I carried on life as normal. One day in particular, I made my way up to Belfast to visit my friends in their uni house. It was Pancake Tuesday and we had all decided to make pancakes and chill. For some reason, I decided to go and buy a 75cl bottle of vodka and a bottle of red wine, which was strange because I had never drank red wine before. Here's a photo of me drinking said bottle and just acting a bit of a dick. My friends can vouch that I was not in a good place at this time because when I drank, I became extremely angry and hostile. They said they had never seen that side to me before, but in all honesty, I don't remember a thing. I got blackout drunk. I was meant to live with these girls when I started university again in September 2017, but I was burning my bridges by lashing out at them. I wasn't addressing my deep-rooted issues, and I was kind of blaming others for my unhappiness. My first and second year of uni went by without much drama. I was on my medication, but I was still binge drinking on nights out, and it would usually result in me either blacking out or else coming home and crying myself to sleep. Fast forward to 2019, and I thought I had learned to cope with my anxiety and depression, and I was still taking my medication. I was still binge drinking alcohol and being in the complete pits of the fear and depression the days after, but I just put that down to student life. Most people I knew were pretty much in the same boat as me. Just before summer 2019, I watched a YouTube video which had mentioned a book for dealing with anxiety called Feeling Good, a book by Dr. David Burns. I have a very skeptical and logical mind, so I had always dismissed self-help books with no real scientific backing to them. But this time, a doctor had recommended it. Dr. Mike. He's a pretty famous YouTuber, and that's his photo there. He even said that in some cases, this book would be prescribed for depression and anxiety rather than or accompanying antidepressants. Oh my god, there's thunder and lightning outside right now. Pathetic fallacy or what? That's mental. I ordered it off Amazon, and being the procrastinator that I am, I let it sit about for a while. I didn't think a book would help much, but summertime came, and I went on holidays with my parents for 3 weeks to America. I took the book and read it. This book changed my life. It helped me understand why I felt the way I did, and how I could try and help myself feel better. It introduced me to concepts about negative thinking I had never come across before, and they made so much sense to me. The book discussed many aspects of mental health, such as love, anger, perfectionism, depression, failure, and it provided me with many useful exercises that I could try and improve my mental health myself. It was an amazing book, and I highly recommend it to anyone. I have to caveat this by saying, though, that what worked for me, I can't guarantee will work for you. I started my final year of university with a new mindset, and I felt great. I actually felt so good that I decided to come off my anti-anxiety medication, and I was feeling really good. The book had worked its magic. Well, that's what I felt anyway. Student life gave me the excuse to drink in excess, and once I'd finished the book, I didn't really keep up with the exercises. I had developed the mindset that final year work was my priority over everything, even my mental health. I felt that my problems had been resolved, and now I was off my medication. I could start anew and focus solely on my education. But I hadn't resolved my problems. I was still avoiding them. Stress from final year deadlines and hangovers from hell brought me back to my dark state of mind. My living situation in Belfast didn't help either. I hated our flat. It was dirty and messy, and I'm a Virgo, so the untidiness really had a negative effect on me. Seasonal affective disorder really kicked me in the ass as well. I thrive off sunlight, and not having any in the winter months really brought my mood down. This all started to trigger migraines, and my tension headaches returned. I made multiple visits to the doctor to try and find a solution again. I thought I had been cured, and I thought the book had saved me. I knew I needed to do something, so I eventually told my GP what happened to me in Magaluf. At this stage, only the staff at the gum clinic knew my circumstances, as well as a few of my close friends. I explained how I had triggered a spiral into depression. She recommended me to a charity called Nexus, who specialise in therapy for victims of sexual violence. I went to a consultation, and I'm currently on a waiting list to be seen by them. With this in mind, I thought, all I have to do is make it through the waiting period and I'll be saved. Therapy will fix me. Before Christmas of 2019, I started to have a major breakdown again during this waiting period. I even thought at a stage that by transitioning into a female, it would solve all my problems, and for a week solid, it was all I could think about. I was really just thinking of anything and everything to try and fix my situation. I thought I needed some sort of major change in order for my troubles to be over. Over Christmas break, I once again fell into a deep depression. I cried myself to sleep a lot, and I found myself having more and more unwanted suicidal thoughts. Around this time, I discovered Billie Eilish's second album. I had obviously heard her music before, but as she's a pretty big deal, but I had never properly listened to her entire discography or tried to listen and understand her lyrics. Some of the songs really resonated with me. She explores depression and anxiety beautifully in her work, and it was comforting to know that I wasn't the only one who felt that way. I decided that enough was enough. I had to be proactive and do something. I didn't know when my therapy session would come, as the charity is extremely busy, and they said it could be months before I would hear from them. I wasn't going to sit in limbo and wait for an unknown amount of time. I had to do something. I decided that in 2020 I would make a few New Year's resolutions. I would eat healthy, exercise, or at least try to be more active, both of which I've succeeded at so far, and I'm very proud of myself for that. I decided that I would stop drinking alcohol altogether, but I used dry January as an excuse for not drinking, as it was a more acceptable concept for people to grasp compared to stopping drinking altogether. I also decided that I would meditate once a day. Meditation is something I'd never really considered before, but I wanted to try something different. I forced myself to buy a year's subscription to a meditation app in the hope that spending the money would force me to use it. I haven't regretted or looked back since. Meditation has honestly changed my life. I use the app Calm, and a lot of its content I found was also reflected in the book Feeling Good I had read previously. Now that I'm sitting down at least once a day, the feeling I got from finishing Feeling Good no longer diminishes. It gets topped up every day, and I get to sit down and reflect and work on my mental health daily. I've discovered that alcohol is a major trigger for me. I'm not myself when I drink. It can make for a fun night out, but too often I would end up blacking out and living in total fear the next day. Over the past couple of years, I've tried to find happiness in whatever way I could, either through drinking or other means, and I look back on some of my actions now and feel regret. Now I realise everything that has happened to me has been a learning experience. I'm now at a stage in my life that I'm able to say I'm truly happy. Well, as happy as I can be in final year doing my dissertation. And I finally have hope. I can at long last say that I have learned to love myself. I no longer gain my self-worth from other people's opinions of me. I no longer look for happiness from alcohol. I now see that my work is not my worth. I no longer have to run from my problems. I can embrace my past and proudly say I am who I am today because of my history. I no longer fear the future, and I wait excitedly to see what my life has in store, whether it be good or bad. I now understand I have the power to deal with whatever comes my way, and that I have an amazing support system between my friends and my family that I will try to utilise more and try to show them more of my vulnerability. I may have finally come to love myself, but I still don't have all the answers. I still await therapy to deal with aspects of my past that I can't deal with alone and need professional help with. However, telling my parents has been a massive step forward in the right direction. I'm telling everyone my story because I am finally becoming the narrator. I can now decide how I want to proceed with my tale. I won't let my past or anyone else determine how it should be told. Just know that everyone's mental state is constantly changing, just like everything else in this world. Nothing is permanent. Anyone out there suffering in silence like I did for many years, I urge you to reach out to someone you love and trust for help. If you don't have anyone you feel comfortable enough to message, then please feel free to reach out to me, because we all need someone to help through these tough times. So that's basically the end of what I'd written, and just have a few thoughts that I want to say maybe off the bat that maybe I didn't emphasize well in the writing. I know I say I'm happy now, but we all feel our emotions, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to embrace whatever comes your way, either it be fear, anxiety, sadness. I still feel those emotions, and I still go through the days where I just want to crawl up in bed and just be safe in bed. I'm able to tackle them more through meditation, through talking to my friends, I still do some of the exercises from that book to talk through my thoughts. I find it way easier to, oh my god, it's snowing. Lol. Yeah, what was I saying? I find it way easier to deal with these negative thoughts. I still experience them, and obviously all of this is still quite fresh. 2020 I'm only 2 months into it, and I'm doing really well, but that doesn't mean that it's going to last. So I'm really keeping up with the healthy eating, being active, not drinking alcohol. I'm just trying to live a better life. So yeah, I'm happy at the moment. I'm really happy, and long may it last. So thank you everyone for listening, and I feel really emotional. Thank you everyone for listening. Really appreciate taking the time to listen to my story, and I hope this has maybe helped someone, and if anything, it does show that things can get better. So thank you very much.